Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Give Me Rent. It's me, Brandon, today, joined by my brother Matt.
Hello, everyone.
So, Maul Shadow Lord just finished up season one, and this show really did blow me away. Considering it's only 10 episodes, I feel like we've gotten so much from such a short season, from what we're used to with the Clone Wars and Rebels and other various animated shows. Matt, like, what are we thinking here? I mean, I have a lot that I can talk about this show.
I mean, I'll keep it short and simple, but I think that the Maul show has genuinely set a bar for all animation for Star Wars and future projects and Star Wars as a whole. I mean, we've been thankful to have him in the Clone Wars where you really get to see his backstory and who he is, but we just got to see a whole new level of Maul, especially going back to some of his flashbacks when they touch and they go into that. You get to see a whole side of Maul, and it's beautiful. I mean, it's very very good. Sam Witwer just did a fantastic job. Really really going into this show with you know probably not a crazy budget, probably not a lot of time, and just did amazing with it overall. Brandon could probably honestly expand more on that, but yeah, I enjoyed it overall.
Yeah, I don't know the budget like that off the top of my head. I'm not going to sit here and say that it was high or low because I really don't know. But yeah, Sam really does embody this character. And I think everybody knows that he's so passionate about the lore with Star Wars. And he's like one of the fans when you really do think about it, especially with how he embodies Maul and Star Killer. And you do see nods at Star Killer throughout this, show, which I do love because for those that grew up on Force Unleashed like me, it's a soft spot. It's not canon. It's not a part of the story as much as we'd love it to be. It's tough. But yeah, Matt, going back, this is something that really did set the bar high. And Star Wars, yet and again, with their animation, whether it's the story writing, whether it's the animation itself, characters, they do always set a bar and then raise it again and again. And looking at the animation in this show, the dueling looked amazing. Season 7 of the Clone Wars is probably the best dueling we'll get because you're getting Prime Maul versus Prime Ahsoka, trained by the best Jedi, trained by debatably the best Sith. And you have essentially a stalemate in season 7. You really do. And that's what made it so beautiful, especially how they captured it in motion, with actual actors. And then seeing in this, you see Maul versus Daki versus, you know, um, Vader versus Maul and Daki, Ahsoka, the Inquisitors. You have so much variety with the different type of fighting styles, and even how they did justice to the Inquisitors. I thought was phenomenal in this. But going back to the animation aspect of it, lightsabers look beautiful. The coloring of just even some of the scenes looked phenomenal. The 2D background, like almost like the paintings, like they do in the live action, on top of the 3D animation, was something I don't think I've recognized that they have done in recent times, and it looked amazing. And it just felt so Star Wars on top of it all. If you know what I'm saying, Matt, it just was phenomenal.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'll add on top of that what Brandon was saying. If you really watch this season, we yes, we did see, these Inquisitors, become one of the bigger villains in Rebels, but they did them justice. Like, they were phenomenal, and I felt like this horror, scary feeling throughout the whole time I'm watching them. Whether if you're watching, the 11th brother, or you're watching Merrick or Marok, just he was just able to prove that he was a serious threat this season, and that they are not to be messed around with. I mean, literally, you watch them Maul have to 2v1 Marok and the 11th brother, and he struggles a little bit. And I know he is obviously hurt, but like still at the same time, it kind of gave us this serious feeling, and you get to see him also face a master Jedi, Daki, and he struggles too. So
Yeah.
I mean, I think that they've been underappreciated in the Star Wars fandom for a long time, and I feel like they're getting a little bit of justice. Also through the Cal Kestis games, they made the fourth sister look amazing. I mean, I also
Yeah.
think like it's a new bar set.
Yeah, it's all around different development. Like you said, the Inquisitors were very goofy in Rebels. It wasn't as feared. Maul has his fair share against them and dogs them, and I think that comes with more experience. But yeah, we see them in different iterations. We see Riva and Kenobi. We see them in Rebels. We see them in Fallen Order. We see them in the shorts against Ahsoka, Tales of the Jedi. And now we see them here, and there's probably something else I'm forgetting. Oh, Obi-Wan. I said obviously before, but it is very interesting this different approach. We didn't see the helicopter stuff. Yes, we see the blades, spinning, but they made them a lot more menacing, which is happy. And going back to Maul, the justice they did him is you do see him as this crime underlord instead of right now he wants to take over the empire. Like right now he wants to go head on to them. He's not as engulfed in hate as he was in the Clone Wars. Like you see this flashbacks, the PTSD and flashbacks I thought was phenomenal in this, and it really captures I guess a more vulnerable Maul and a more broken Maul, I guess, of betrayal from Sidious killing Savage and the tragedy. Obi-Wan isn't even mentioned, but the tragedy of Obi-Wan cutting him in half, leading him to all that the identity issue that I guess Maul really had after getting defeated and kind of tossed aside. It's just the whole story connecting to Clone Wars and flashbacks was phenomenal, and really his upcoming as a child and being separated from Savage was something I didn't see. And just flashing back, him looking into the reflection, it's him as a kid versus now, and the emotion from him, it was oh my god, it was phenomenal. And I want more of that because especially when you see him meet Vader at the end, Vader's dead silent, and this is his first year, so he is engulfed in hate and anger, and Maul's fighting against that almost. And it's very interesting to see him be open minded and want to take a Jedi as his apprentice. It is very interesting to watch him take Devin.
Yeah, I mean, I genuinely, me and Brandon have talked about this too ourselves. We hope that she becomes Darth Talon. I mean, I hope that this is a new future, a new look for the sequels, or something brighter for the Star Wars project because they've been doing a lot of diving into the Empire, the pre-Empire, and the Republic lately. But we really haven't seen any future projects promising for the sequels really. I mean, we see the High Republic, but there's no, First Order era. So I hope gradually we can maybe get into something like that with Darth Talon, where this is a longer term project. This is just a start. With her being introduced, we get at least hopefully a third season of Maul, not just two. Um,
Yeah. Well, I think it was actually greenlit for a season three. It's just they're working on season two and they're almost done with it. I'm pretty sure Sam actually just said that in an interview. They are almost done with season two and we should be getting it sooner than expected. But I agree. I think the next season also is very big plans. It's really just bridging the gaps, right? Maul to Solo, then Solo to Rebels is probably a big thing. And to be honest with you, we're gonna see him actually become a crime underlord. I think not be as involved with Imperial as we think. They definitely will make their appearances, but I don't think it's gonna be him chasing Maul the whole time or Vader the whole time. Maul versus Vader, and I think it's gonna really develop and see him at a different perspective that we haven't before. And it's very interesting because I really wonder how he ended up with his two, with Rook and Icarus, and I'm very curious on how they all came to be before this, but I don't think we're gonna get that. But yeah, I mean, this show did do a good job with him, and I'm very interested to see us explore the Sith side of the Force. I feel like we always explore, whether it was with Qui Gon and projecting the Force, whether it was Yoda, whether it's with the Mortis arc. Yeah, we got a little bit of the dark side, but I think now that he's going to be training Devin directly, we probably will see more of the dark side of the Force get explored at a different level we haven't yet. We haven't touched up, I think, enough on it, understanding it, and why he looks at Ezra as a next apprentice. Does he find a Sith holocron? Does he have a vision? Why is he so projected towards Ezra in the story? And at some point, Talon might be either dead or she has a bigger role and kicked them all to the curb or they got separated. We'll find out though, obviously, when time comes, but that's if she does become Talon. Maybe she dies.
yeah, no, I definitely agree. I mean, there is like a huge gap in between that time period between the Maul season 2 show and Rebels and Solo. So I think that we have a lot that's gonna come in. I mean, I think me and Brandon talked about this a little bit. We think that hopefully, we'll see the Grand Inquisitor. He might be the next villain next season, or you know, we just get to see this rise of of her becoming maybe Darth Talon and her getting trained this whole time, Devin. And why is like Devin such a big key resource? What kept him back from leaving this planet the whole time? Like, why is she such a big aspect? Obviously, we know he wants a trainer to, hopefully take over the Empire or fight Palpatine and get his revenge. But like, why is she such a big piece and worth such a big sacrifice? To losing basically his whole squad. They showed at the end of the season, the last two episodes, that nobody was safe. That anybody could die at any moment, and she was like a smaller piece to something big. Him losing Rook Cast is something huge. Losing all those Mandalorians from Death Watch that were so loyal afterwards, that he lost that reign on Mandalore. I feel like there's something way bigger, in the future held. We just have to watch and see. I mean, we can only hope, but
No, no, I definitely agree. And I don't think the losses were in vain. Like you said, there's definitely a big reward for probably the viewers more than Maul at the end of it because he does end up alone looking for Ezra. I do want to go more direct towards the show as a whole with the writing. And it's so crazy that there's so many characters that we thought, Vario we weren't going to like. I've still mixed on Riley Lawson a little bit. And Detective Lawson I did like. But I think the voice acting really brings it to life also. Like Spybot was so much like a Decepticon, and it was very interesting. He reminds me of the doctor that goes up Sam Witwicky's nose in what's it called in Revenge of the Fallen, which is hilarious to me. They're very very similar. It might be the same voice actor. I'm not too sure, but they did sound alike. I did like obviously both the Zabraks. I do like the Mandalorian. I do like Rook. Actually, Vario grew on me like right off the bat. I don't know what it was, but they made you feel for characters that didn't even really have lines too. Like watching Maul lose his squad, and even when Spybot got cut in half and said "Master," and you saw Maul's heart kind of drop, you do see that humanity with him, and I think we felt that, and a lot of people have felt that, especially with how the reactions and posts have been towards his show. That's the one thing that they do very well with these animated Star Wars shows. Going back to the Clone Wars, you know, there was times that nobody really cared about the clones before the show. No one really cared about Cody. No one cared about Gree. Bakara was just an action figure. Like nobody really knew these guys just off either was comics or other lore or the action figures with the names on the back. Like Commander Neo also, you just see him commit Order 66, and then you get into the Clone Wars show. And then you start to feel for the clones. And then you start to feel with all these other characters that may not have major significance. Like Sergeant Denel. People loved him, and he dies to Cad Bane. And he barely had any lines or any importance. He was just a cool clone. And that's kind of what the animated shows I feel like do better than the live action. The live action, I do feel like, especially with the movies, they make people just feel like, oh, it's a background character. It's just, maybe it's a Mon Calamari or a Quarren or a Trandoshan. It's nothing that you get really attached to like this. And yeah, it's kind of the beauty of it.
I,
And look,
yeah.
yeah, say what you're gonna say.
I was gonna say something too. I know these like side characters really really grew on me. I mean, like you said, Spybot, maybe for Miso, Two Boots, and Vario. I
Oh yeah,
really.
Two Boots I ended up really liking. At one point, he was annoying the fuck out of me. Now I do like him a
Oh yeah,
lot.
he became like what's his name?
K2SO.
Yeah, yeah, something like that. That really annoyed me. But I really hope, and I don't mean this to offend anyone. I really don't want to see Brenner Lawson come back. I think like, keeping like the fact that like he's dead and that's it. I just don't want to see him come back. Tell Devin. I think it defeats the whole purpose of then us having a Darth Talon. I don't know. I like the direction they're going with. Keep him dead. You really don't have to bring him back. I mean, same thing with Tech. Not to get off topic, but Tech is dead. He's not coming back. Um,
I hope not. I love Tech, but he's
yeah.
got to stay. He has to stay dead. you
Yeah, I
know.
mean, I said this to Brandon. Stuart Lee does not get enough appreciation for what he's done for Star Wars. He helped direct 4 major episodes throughout the season, and it ended up being like one of the best episodes was episode 10. And you could just tell that like what he did in the Clone Wars and in Rebels, it's just there. It literally feels like a continuation of Star Wars Clone Wars. And that made me really happy. What we got this season. I mean, in a long time we haven't seen good Star Wars content. And
Yeah, it's been.
I
I mean, Andor was phenomenal, and
yeah.
Tales of Jedi, Underworld, like they're short, but they're 12-minute episodes, so it's not like crazy content, I'd say. But I agree. Yeah, we haven't got anything consistent.
Yeah, no, this made me feel like a kid again, I would say, which made me really, really happy. I think that personally we need to tap into these characters that have such a bigger role in, these arcs that we could see and, fill in these gaps and kind of fix the sequels because honestly, there's a lot of stuff that George Lucas had and Disney didn't execute and go through with that. And I think Dave Filoni's trying to fix that. And hopefully now him taking over. Hopefully he's trying to fix the stuff that Disney made mistakes and keep going with it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and Filoni did confirm that he's trying to go with the original plan for Maul and do what George Lucas's plan was. So I wonder if that means we're going to end up with the big bad. But talking about the sequels and theoretics, there's a whole other pod for another day. But yeah, I mean, going back, I do want to talk about because you said Two Boots, and it just reminded me of this voice casting. I mean, we can literally go through the entire like casting for it, but Maul Shadow Lord had a phenomenal casting. You have Sam Witwer, as everybody knows. That's the goat. That's Maul slash Star Killer. Wagner Mora was Lawson. Docky was what's his name? Dennis Haysbert. He was in All State or State Farm. Steve Blum was obviously Icarus. Gideon Adlin was Devin. And Richard, I can't pronounce his last name. I do remember him from The Watch. He plays Jamarcus in The Watch. He was Two Boots, and I never realized that till later on. And Vanessa Marshall, obviously, everybody knows as Rook. She was phenomenal. But they were very spot on with this, which makes me wonder who's going to be voicing what in the next season. And looking at this season overall, just because we had a lot of crazy events going on, comparing this to season 7 of the Clone Wars, just because it's, I can't do season 1 of the Clone Wars versus this or Rebels because it wasn't developed, I guess, enough. Because, two studios first season. This compared to season 7 of the Clone Wars, I think this is just a better season overall. You know, Looking back at season 7 of the Clone Wars, yeah, the Bad Batch arc was pretty solid. It was pretty good. Obviously, Mandalore was phenomenal, generational. Marta's Sisters was not it. And yes, we deserve to know what happens with Ahsoka, but we did not need those new characters being introduced and ending up in the Bad Batch at all in that show. And when you compare the episodes one by one by one, Maul is more consistently a better season, and it's not close. You want to compare just the Mandalore episodes to Maul? The Mandalore episodes are better than probably all the episodes of Maul season 1. I will give them that. But as a whole season, it's not close. The consistency of Maul in the writing, the dialogue, the animation, the tone, it stays consistent throughout the entire season. And the development with the characters, different than what we got in season 7 of the Clone Wars. And yeah, I get it. It's to wrap up a massive show, one of the biggest anime shows of all time. But it's a better season. That is what I'll say about it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I really agree. He definitely was able to revive a character that we haven't seen in a while, and I honestly didn't see this I don't know how long this project took, but this was kind of out of nowhere, and I was pretty excited to see this. I mean, we didn't know obviously how good it was gonna be, but honestly, it probably did way better. And this is not a crazy take. I think this might be, if season 2 does pan out and does well, this could be better than completely Bad Batch. I mean, we're gonna take away obviously the amazing, the crazy things that happened that were very important to Bad Batch, but you know, this could have way more significance. I mean, they really didn't have a miss episode throughout the whole 10 episodes. They were amazing. Bad Batch, we got 24, we got almost, like about, I think it was about 20 episodes per season, and it was just not as good. And the storytelling in this is just amazing. I mean, it really has set a new bar for Star Wars, I would say, animation wise.
Yeah, 100%. And then seeing Vader at the end was just the cherry on top of everything. Getting to see him, he's not even his prime. This is a year after Order 66. And I just thought the scene really captivated him. Not saying it's better than Rogue One because the visual aspects of Rogue One is insane. You felt the horror in this, and you see how scared Maul is and why he probably disappears and sensed him in Rebels, and he's like, I gotta go, unannounced. But it was interesting to see this, and there wasn't much that I really did not like about the show. I just really hope Lawson's dead. That's the main thing I was really annoyed about, is that he survived, most likely. Knowing Star Wars, that 8 stormtroopers, 12, how many a battalion, and even the Inquisitors probably didn't finish him, or they took him captive for questioning, which I wouldn't be shocked. But
Yeah.
seeing Devin change, it was just the whole show I thought was phenomenal with how they handled everything. And looking at future casting for this show, I'm very curious on what villains we're going to end up in the next season. Who's going to even be the main villain?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, maybe we'll see the Grand Inquisitor a little bit more on screen. Um, we'll see maybe more so these Inquisitors come and try to hunt Maul down, and he builds up this battalion because, after all, he is trying to, you know, these gangs that screwed him over after after he lost Mandalore and the throne. Is he going to continue? Is he going to build up his reputation? Is he going to just train? Are they going to just train Devin the whole season? I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean, if they explored just the dark side for the next season and trained her and like little events here and there, like this one where they really just built it up consistently, I would not mind that. I want to have more lore towards what we don't know yet, and especially having a Sith perspective show. We haven't had this yet. We haven't. We've had a bounty hunter perspective show. We've had the Mandalorian. We've had the Book of Boba Fett. We have had the Clone Wars, which has taken the perspective. Yeah, I mean, we've gotten the Sith a little bit, episodes centering them. Obviously, Obi-Wan as Radko Hardeen as a bounty hunter. We've seen the Jedi perspective. I think I said the clones like Rishi Moonbase and all these other stuff. And even we've seen the droids. But I think it's time we get a real deep dive into what's going on with the Sith, how they train, because now we have somebody who's not really engulfed by the hate too much like he used to be. He's kind of fighting against it, but using it as a weapon. And especially seeing how he was using the different types of stances and forms of fighting, like as a Jedi when he was training. Very interesting. Jedi and Sith like stance. It was very cool. You see a lot of parallels with him as a character.
yeah, hopefully, maybe we go back to Dathomir and see him train her on his home planet.
That would be awesome to
Uh,
see it, especially after Order 66. But
yeah, definitely. I mean, we know all the Night Sisters are gone, but you
yeah,
know,
because of
ho-
Grievous.
yeah. I mean, hopefully, we get some sort of like,
Technically, no, because Fallen Order, some of them are still alive.
oh yeah, yeah, you're right. I forgot her name, but yes, one of them is still alive. But yeah, I mean, going back to that Vader aspect too, I just want to talk about that was, he was just perfect. He was menacing. He was horror. He gave that horror feeling, like him punching his hand through the wall. Like that actually had me jumping, and Brandon can vouch for me. That scared me. It set a new bar for him. Whether when he's on screen, he just always aura farms, and he's always amazing. And they always do him right. They like, do him correctly, which is everybody loves about him. And you want to say Sam Witwer said this on an interview. He said like, no, like you have to remember this is Vader at his prime. Maul is not
No,
nerfed.
Vader's not his prime.
Or well,
Vader's not his prime yet. We're a year out. Vader is not in his prime yet.
okay,
He's definitely more in tune to the dark side than Maul, and Maul's also not focused on any of that right now. He is literally trying to take over the underworld. That's the whole point. So Vader's more specialized under Sidious's training right now than Maul. Stronger, Obviously, a higher midichlorian count. It's just that's just the difference between the two. It's cut from the same cloth, but they're different. You know.
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, personally, I think that if they just continue what the heat cooking up for Vader in the future, if they hopefully do, give us a rated R Vader movie or whatever, giving us a solo project would be awesome for him.
I think they'll give us a show on him. I really think so. I don't think we're gonna get a rated R movie, but I think we'll get a show of him hunting at some point. But let us know what you guys think. What are you expecting for the next season of Maul? What were your thoughts on the first season of Maul? What we want to hear from you guys? What are your opinions? But for that being now, I'm Brandon.
I'm Matt.
Welcome to Give Me Rent. We'll talk to you guys next time.